The grand chandelier blazed over Daniel Hartman's mansion, casting golden light across polished floors and mirrored walls. Music poured from hidden speakers, laughter mingled with the clinking of crystal glasses, and guests swirled in gowns and tuxedos. To the world, Daniel was the charming host, the successful businessman admired by his peers. To his wife, Clara, he was something colder, someone she still hoped would show warmth after she had borne his son only 6 weeks earlier. Clara stood by the staircase, one hand resting against her still-healing body. Exhaustion from sleepless nights with the newborn clung to her, but she had chosen to attend this celebration, believing her presence would matter to her husband. She imagined a moment of gratitude, maybe even pride. Instead, she walked into the sharpest wound of her life. "Clara!" Daniel's voice thundered across the hall. Dozens of eyes turned toward her. She forced a nervous smile, stepping forward slowly, her dress simple compared to the glittering fashion around her. Daniel's arm, casual and possessive, was draped over Vanessa, his young assistant in a scarlet gown that demanded attention. "Come closer, darling," Daniel said, lifting his glass. "Let everyone meet the mother of my son." Clara whispered a polite greeting to the crowd, her voice almost lost in the din. Daniel smirked, tightening his hold on Vanessa. Then, with a cruelty sharpened by wine, he pointed at his wife. "Look at her," he announced loudly. "Still swollen, moving like she's carrying stones. 6 weeks since childbirth, and this is what I come home to." A ripple of laughter spread through the room. Some guests tried to hide it behind coughs, others chuckled openly. Clara's cheeks burned. She trembled but held her ground, unwilling to gift them the satisfaction of seeing her flee. Victor, Daniel's oldest friend, smirked and added, "You weren't exaggerating, Dan. She's really let herself go." "Let herself go?" Daniel barked. "She looks like a whale washed up in my garden." His words rang above the clinking of glasses, laughter crashing down on Clara like a wave. She swallowed hard, nails digging into her palms. Vanessa's lips twisted into a faint smile that pretended sympathy but glistened with triumph. An older woman in the crowd whispered to her companion, not softly enough, "She was never meant for this world. Look at her, so plain. Daniel should have chosen better." Clara felt her chest tighten, shame pressing against her ribs. Still, she whispered inside, "For my child, I will endure this." Daniel lifted his glass again. "Gentlemen, you see what I deal with. I earn the fortune, I throw the parties, and this baggage, is my reward. Tell me, who would touch that thing after childbirth?" For a heartbeat, silence. Then laughter again, sharper than knives. Clara's lips parted, but no words came. She looked at her husband for mercy, but his eyes glistened only with pride in his own cruelty. When the laughter roared once more, Clara turned slowly toward the staircase. Each step upward felt like dragging a chain. At the top, she paused, pressing her palm against her heart. Below, Daniel raised another toast, arm locked around Vanessa's waist. To beauty, success, and living without regrets. Cheers erupted. Clara slipped away into the shadows, her dignity shattered, yet a seed of resolve sprouted quietly inside her. Tonight, the man who vowed to cherish her had made her humiliation entertainment. Tonight, he laughed at her pain. But one day, Clara swore, that laughter would turn to ashes. Long after the party ended, the echoes of laughter drifted through the mansion like ghosts. Clara sat on the edge of her bed, cradling her newborn son. His tiny hand clutched her finger as though he alone could anchor her in the storm. She kissed his forehead and whispered, "I'll protect you, no matter how much I must endure." Yet even as she spoke, Daniel's venom replayed in her head, baggage. Wail. Useless. By dawn, Clara's eyes were swollen from tears. The house smelled of stale wine and cigar smoke. When Daniel came downstairs in a pressed suit, she gathered the courage to confront him. "Daniel," she began softly, her voice trembling, "can we talk about last night?" He poured coffee, barely glancing at her. "Talk about what?" "The things you said, about me. In front of everyone." Daniel smirked. "That? Don't be so serious. It was a joke." Her chest tightened. "You mocked me. You called me ugly and useless. That wasn't a joke, Daniel. That was cruelty." Setting his cup down, Daniel turned, his gaze ice cold. "Cruel? I'll tell you what's cruel, Clara, being shackled to a woman who trapped me with a child. You gave me a son, yes, but you cost me my freedom. Look at yourself. Do you fit in this life? In this house? Among these people?" Clara staggered as though struck. I left my career for you. I supported you. I. Exactly, he cut in with a bitter laugh. You abandoned your small, meaningless life to marry up. Don't act like you sacrificed anything. You needed me. Without me, you're nothing. Her lips quivered. Do you even love me anymore? Daniel's shrug was merciless. Love doesn't build empires. Power, wealth, image, that's what matters. You're none of those things. He straightened his tie, unmoved by their child's cry echoing upstairs. I have a meeting. Don't wait up. The door slammed. Clara stood frozen, her chest hollow, her hands trembling. The man she had trusted had not only humiliated her, he despised her. That afternoon, desperate for air, she wandered the terrace. But instead of peace, she overheard voices. Daniel's low tone drifted through the open doors. She won't resist. Once the papers are signed, I'll take the house, the shares, everything. Vanessa giggled. And what if she surprises you? She won't, Daniel scoffed. Clara has no fight in her. She's a shadow. Clara pressed her back against the wall, tears burning her cheeks. The knife twisted deeper when Evelyn, Daniel's mother, joined them. You must act quickly, Evelyn urged. The longer she clings to that child, the harder it becomes. End it before she imagines she has rights. Don't worry, mother, Daniel replied. The lawyer is preparing everything. She'll leave with nothing. Evelyn's voice carried a cruel satisfaction. Good. I warned you she wasn't worthy. Poor blood, weak stock. Sophie, she paused, almost savoring the word. Vanessa is far more fitting. Clara nearly collapsed. Her husband and his mother were conspiring to erase her, to strip her of her home, her marriage, even her child. Every kindness Evelyn had shown, every smile at family dinners, it had all been an act. Back in her room, Clara locked the door and slid to the floor, her body shaking. She pressed a hand to her mouth to stifle sobs. They wanted her gone. They wanted her erased. But as she gazed at her baby sleeping peacefully in the crib, something shifted. Rage stirred beneath the grief. They think I'm weak, she whispered through clenched teeth. They think I'll walk away. But they don't know me. She kissed her son's forehead, her voice steadying. For you, I will fight. Downstairs, Daniel toasted Evelyn with a glass of whiskey. Soon, she'll break. Evelyn's lips curved in triumph. And when she does, remember, mercy is for equals. She is beneath us. Neither of them knew a storm had just been born upstairs. The days that followed were like walking through a battlefield Clara had not chosen. Whispers spread through the city's high circles, claims that she was lazy, that she left her baby with nannies, that she did nothing for her husband. Former acquaintances turned their backs, and even friends avoided her with pity or discomfort. She knew the rumors were no accident. Vanessa and Evelyn were planting them carefully, poisoning her reputation. One afternoon, Clara ran into her old friend Helena at a cafe. Relief rushed through her as she sat down. Helena, it's so good to see you, she said softly. Helena hesitated before leaning closer. Clara, people are talking. They say you've let yourself go, that Daniel deserves better. I don't know what to believe, but I don't want to get caught in the middle. With that, she excused herself, leaving Clara alone at the table, staring at her untouched tea. Even those she trusted were slipping away. At home, things worsened. Daniel barely addressed her except with criticism. Evelyn's sneers grew bolder, and Vanessa's visits became more frequent, always in elegant gowns, always flaunting her presence. Clara endured in silence, but inside, her sorrow hardened into quiet resolve. One evening, passing Daniel's office, she heard his voice sharp and urgent. I don't care how you move the numbers, just make it look clean. If the board asks, they'll get the answers I give them. Her pulse quickened. She pressed her ear against the door. No one must find out about the transfers. If they do, it's over. The next day, while Daniel was away, Clara entered his office for the first time. With shaking hands, she searched drawers and cabinets. Her breath caught when she found them. Forged contracts, suspicious bank statements, funds funneled into hidden accounts. Daniel's empire wasn't built on brilliance, it was built on fraud. She copied what she could, hiding the papers in her closet. That night, beside her sleeping husband, Clara whispered into the dark, God, show me what to do. For the first time, she saw a path, fraught with risk, but a path nonetheless. She began small. Early mornings, she walked the estate gardens, slowly regaining strength. She started eating better, caring for her body, not for Daniel, but for herself. She reached out to her old mentor, Mr. Dawson, who had once guided her as a young intern. "Clara Hartman," he said with surprise. "It's been years. How are you?" Her voice wavered. "Not well, but I need direction." Dawson didn't press. Instead, he reminded her of her worth. "You were one of the sharpest minds I ever worked with. Don't let anyone bury that." His words lit a spark within her. Clara became careful. She carried a hidden recorder in her bag. She captured Daniel's outbursts, his whispered deals, even Vanessa's schemes murmured in corners. Piece by piece, she built an archive of truth, a weapon forged from patience. But the blow she hadn't expected came one night, when she overheard Daniel and Vanessa again. "Richard," Vanessa's voice quivered, then steadied. "I can't keep this secret much longer. I'm carrying your child." Clara's blood ran cold. Daniel chuckled darkly. "Don't worry, love. Clara is finished. You're my future. Once the divorce is done, she's gone for good." Clara staggered back from the door, clutching her chest. Vanessa was pregnant. Not only was she being replaced, she was being erased entirely. In her room, Clara wept until her body shook. But when her baby stirred, she held him close, his warmth steadying her. Through tears, she whispered, "For you, I will survive. For you, I will fight." Downstairs, Daniel and Vanessa toasted their future. Upstairs, Clara tucked away another recording. They thought she was broken. But her war had already begun. The Hartman mansion glittered with extravagance again, just weeks after Clara overheard the darkest truth. Expensive cars lined the driveway, guests swarmed the hall, and Daniel moved through them like a king, Vanessa clasped proudly to his arm. Her golden dress sparkled, her hand rested conspicuously on her stomach, reminding everyone of the child she carried. For days, Clara had remained quiet, her silence mistaken for defeat. In truth, she had been preparing, collecting evidence, recording conversations, piecing together every fragment of Daniel's deception. She had become invisible on purpose, watching, listening, and waiting. That evening, as the music swelled and laughter filled the hall, Daniel raised his glass. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight marks a new beginning. For business, for life, for the future." He pressed a kiss to Vanessa's hair, and the crowd applauded. The doors opened, and all eyes turned. Clara entered, dressed in an elegant black gown, her hair pinned neatly, her presence commanding. A hush rippled across the hall. Whispers followed, "Is that Clara? She looks so different." Daniel's confident grin faltered. "Clara," he muttered under his breath. She walked with steady steps, stopping in the center of the room. "Good evening," she said, her voice calm but cutting through the noise. "I trust I'm not late." The guests shifted uneasily. Daniel forced a laugh. "Look who decided to crawl back. My wife, though not for much longer. Tonight is also about change, ladies and gentlemen. Clara and I are parting ways. Sometimes you need a partner who belongs in your world." He squeezed Vanessa's hand for emphasis. But Clara's expression didn't flinch. "Yes, Daniel. Life is about change. But not change built on lies, betrayal, and theft." The room stirred. Daniel stiffened. "What nonsense are you spouting now?" Clara reached into her clutch and revealed a small recorder. She pressed play. Daniel's voice filled the air. "She's weak, a shadow. Vanessa is my future. Clara was just a mistake." Gasps erupted. Vanessa's face went pale. Daniel's hand dropped from hers. Clara's voice cut like glass. "This is the man who preaches about strength and success. This is how he speaks of the woman who bore his son." Daniel roared. "Do you think anyone cares about your whining? You're pathetic." Unmoved, Clara opened a folder of documents. "This isn't about me. It's about the truth." She lifted the pages high. "Stolen funds, forged contracts, embezzlement. Your empire isn't brilliance, Daniel, it's fraud." The crowd exploded in shouts and curses. Business partners surged forward, snatching the papers, scanning with horror. "These numbers, this is criminal." Daniel stammered. "Lies. She forged them. She's desperate." Clara pressed play on another recording. Daniel's voice again. "Move the numbers. Make it look clean. If the board asks questions, they'll get the answers I give them." The hall fell into chaos. Allies shouted, guests recoiled, and Vanessa trembled, her hand clutching her belly. "You swore everything was clean," she cried, her voice sharp with betrayal. She slapped Daniel hard across the face, the sound cracking through the room. The guests gasped. Evelyn pushed forward, her face livid. "Clara," How dare you humiliate my son after all he's given you? Clara's gaze locked on her mother-in-law. What he gave me. Shame. Betrayal. And you, Evelyn, you fueled it. You wanted me erased because I wasn't good enough for your world. Tonight I walk away, not in disgrace, but in strength. And Daniel leaves in ruins. Papers raised high, Clara declared. By law, his fraud strips him of control. The house, the shares, custody of my child, they are mine. Daniel Hartman is finished. Daniel lunged, wild with rage, but his partners held him back. You've ruined enough, one growled. Clara turned, calm and resolute. You mocked me, Daniel. You humiliated me. But tonight, you stand exposed. And I walk free. The crowd parted, their whispers chasing her, admiration, awe, disbelief. At the door, the nanny handed Clara her son. She kissed the baby's forehead and whispered, "Let's go home." Behind her, Daniel's empire collapsed in flames of scandal, betrayal, and shattered pride. The night Clara left Daniel's mansion, whispers followed her into the dark. Those who once mocked her now murmured her name with respect. She did not look back. She didn't need to. Behind her, the empire that had been built on deceit and arrogance crumbled. Vanessa fled in tears, Evelyn seethed in silent defeat, and Daniel, once the man who held court with laughter and pride, was left shouting into a void, his allies turning their backs. Clara stepped into the waiting car with her child, his tiny breaths warm against her neck. For the first time in months, she felt the weight lift. Humiliation had nearly broken her, betrayal had nearly erased her, but truth had given her strength. In the weeks that followed, the story spread beyond the glittering circles Daniel once commanded. Newspapers printed headlines of fraud, embezzlement, and betrayal. Former friends abandoned him, business partners severed ties, and lawsuits piled high. The man who had ridiculed his wife in front of a laughing crowd now faced his own ridicule in the court of public opinion. Clara, however, moved quietly. She chose not to revel in his downfall. Her focus was on rebuilding herself, her child, and the dignity that had been stolen. She reconnected with Dawson, who helped her re-establish her career. Slowly, she began to carve out her own place, no longer in Daniel's shadow, but in her own light. One afternoon, Clara walked through a park, her son bundled in her arms. Strangers smiled warmly at her, some even recognizing her face from the stories that had spread. For once, the looks carried no disdain, only admiration. A woman approached her and whispered, "You gave so many of us courage." Clara's throat tightened, but she smiled. "I only did what I had to." At home, she created a new rhythm. Mornings filled with her child's laughter, evenings spent planning her next steps. She no longer looked in the mirror with shame. The woman staring back at her was stronger, sharper, and unafraid. Yet memories still haunted her. The party where Daniel mocked her body, the terrace whispers of Evelyn plotting her erasure, Vanessa's triumphant smirk as she flaunted her pregnancy. These memories no longer broke her. Instead, they fueled her resolve. Every scar was proof that she had endured and risen. Daniel, meanwhile, spiraled. Lawsuits drained his fortune, betrayal fractured his alliances, and Vanessa, once his bright future, turned against him. She had believed his promises, but like Clara, she discovered his loyalty was only to himself. When the truth of her pregnancy surfaced, it became another scandal that crushed his name further. Evelyn retreated into bitter silence, her legacy shattered alongside her son's. The man who once declared that no one would want to touch Clara after childbirth now stood abandoned, stripped of power, and mocked by those who once cheered his cruelty. His downfall was complete. One evening, Clara sat by the window, her child asleep beside her. The city lights glimmered in the distance, and the silence of peace wrapped around her. She whispered softly, "They thought I was nothing, but I became more than they ever imagined." Her journey had begun in humiliation, but it ended in triumph. Clara had not only protected her child, she had reclaimed her life. The woman once dismissed as baggage had become a symbol of strength. And though Daniel's laughter once echoed like thunder, in the end, it was silence that surrounded him, silence and regret. Clara kissed her son's forehead and whispered, "We're free now." She turned from the window, carrying her child into a new dawn, her dignity intact, her spirit unbroken, her story no longer one of shame, but of power reclaimed.